Law, but a couple of questions there, Minister, that I wouldn't mind you answering. Thank you very much.
Dr. Camcorder.
I move the question be now put.
Mr Chairman, I'm happy to take a brief call on this Courts and Criminal Matters Bill on Part 2, which deals with the introduction of driver licence stop orders. It's a part of the bill that I support. I think it's a useful initiative that will certainly help to collect overdue fines. I do want to, however, draw the House's attention to a comment made in the Select Committee's report on this particular part of the bill. It's on page 3. And I'll just quote from it for a moment. The committee was interested in the advice of the New Zealand Police that it was their policy to waive infringements for an expired warrant of fitness or for outdated registration of 1 month or less where the fault was remedied in a timely manner. Now, I was particularly interested in that comment that's all to do with overdue fines, because effectively what that does is it says that in New Zealand we have a 7-month warrant of fitness. In fact, we don't. We have a 6-month warrant of fitness or a 12-month warrant of fitness, depending on the age of your vehicle. And I've always been under the impression, this was a surprise to me, because I had always been under the impression that it was up to the owner of a vehicle, it was the obligation was on the owner of a vehicle to get their warrant of fitness renewed before such time as it expired. Actually, what this is saying is you can extend the life of your warrant of fitness by an additional month by simply running the risk that if you get caught and then whip it in and get the warrant of fitness the next day, you're going to get away with not having your warrant of fitness renewed. And warrants of fitness do start from the day on which they are issued. I say Jonathan Young's a little bit mistaken. If I take my car in and it's a month overdue for its warrant of fitness, registration's different. Registration is different, but for a warrant of fitness, that takes effect from the day on which it is due. So this policy that's in place by the police now effectively says to people, take the risk and wait until the last day, wait until your warrant's a month overdue, then go and get it. Because if you get caught in the interim period, you'll actually be able to, whip it in, get your warrant of fitness, you're deemed to have remedied it, and the fine that you might otherwise get would be waived. I think that actually sends the wrong message to people. I think responsible vehicle owners should make sure their vehicle has a current warrant of fitness. If we want to say as a parliament that in fact the vehicle warrant of fitness should be 7 months, let's change the law and say that it should be 7 months. It isn't. It's 6 months. And this policy that's in place by the police, as mentioned by the Select Committee, effectively gives a 7-month warrant of fitness, and I think that's something that the House may want to give some attention to. But anyway, moving back to the temporary, the driver's licence stop orders, which allows somebody's licence to be effectively taken away if they have outstanding fines. I think that's a useful thing. I was concerned when learning of this, however, and particularly how it can apply to a limited licence, so somebody who may have a licence particularly and rely on their licence for work. How would this impact on them? Because you can see a situation where somebody gets themselves into debt, they have a licence for work, suddenly that licence is taken away, they can't earn any money, so therefore how do they earn the money to pay the fines in order to get it back again? And what I was reassured by was the comment from the Select Committee that actually it didn't necessarily the person involved didn't necessarily have to pay all of the fines. They needed to enter into an arrangement for the payment of the fines. Had it been the other way around, I would be very reluctant to support this, because I think it's really important that we don't rob somebody who's got themselves into a bit of financial difficulty with outstanding fines. We don't rob them of the means to earn the money to pay those fines back. So providing the person who got themselves into this difficulty, who got themselves into that vicious cycle, has all these outstanding fines, suddenly found that their licence was taken away, providing they negotiated an arrangement over time to repay those fines, to repay the debt that they owe, then they would be able to get their licence back. I think that's really important. Otherwise, we actually run the risk of doing ourselves more difficulty in collecting the fines than we had intended to with this particular part of the bill. The other thing I think that's really important is that people are sent a warning notice giving them 14 days to resolve their traffic penalties before their licence is suspended. And I think that's really important. So again, we've got this issue now where somebody's caught, they've got these fines, they're given 14 days, a first step to sort themselves out. Even if they don't and they lose their licence after that period of time, they still have the option of entering into a repayment arrangement, at which point, once they do that, they can potentially get their licence back, as I read it. And if I'm mistaken on that, it would be useful to clarify that, because I think that's quite critical, and certainly part of my comfort with the bill and one of the reasons for supporting it. If that's not the case, I'd certainly like that to be pointed out to me. So overall, I can see the value in this provision. It's a good bill.
The Honourable Rick Barker.
I just want to make a couple of points. Firstly,